Buongiorno. Today we're going to be talking about immersion in Italian, how to actually surround yourself with the language on a day-to-day basis, how to get out of the fear of actually doing this and just making that jump into real Italian every day. So let's start obviously talking about some problems. Now this might be you, okay? So if you've ever thought things like, I don't live in Italy, so I can't really interact with Italian much. I'll be honest, these are going to be a lot of excuses, so, sorry to call you out here. But if you think you need to move to Italy, or that you don't have Italian friends, or that there's no Italian around you, the reality is, I want to help you get a bit of a better mindset about this, because we live in an age where all of the world's information is accessible to us at our fingertips, and sometimes it's too much. But if you can't, go to Italy as often as you'd like, then you have to bring Italy to you. And the truth is that you can create that immersion everywhere around you, and I'll help you to do that. Okay, so in terms of actually what you want to do, okay, in the kind of first stage of just surrounding yourself with daily Italian, okay, you want to think about this passively. So have some Italian, audio or video in the background, obviously preferably audio, and the key thing here is that there's no pressure to understand everything that's going on. The idea here isn't that you learn something or you see a word once and you can instantly repeat it in conversation. It's really something that you want to just think about the fourth or fifth time that you hear a certain word or a certain phrase, or why did they end that question in that way every time they were in that situation. That's really where you want to get to with this immersion stuff. Okay, as a general guide, I would suggest about 30 minutes a day. Now, that might sound like a lot of time, but if you're just having this in the background, really it shouldn't be too tricky. When you're kind of past that stage and you want to move on, I'd say, your focus will then transition to actually being on the comprehension side, where you really want to try and catch certain words or phrases, maybe write them down and kind of build on that foundation, obviously. Okay, if you want to practice something tangential to this as well, I have made an Italian practicer to practice your present, past and future verbs. I basically got a bit frustrated that I couldn't find a really good way to just set my students 50 or 100 questions just purely on the past tense, and it's annoying on Duolingo. You can't really search for the type of exercise you want to do or assign homework, so I did something about it. So if you want to practice that, I'll leave a link in the description. Similarly, if you just want a bit more of a personal touch and get a bit more information about learning Italian, I send out a weekly newsletter with some tips and some video suggestions, which I will leave in the description if you'd like to try that out. Okay, in terms of how we're actually going to go ahead and set up your immersion, okay, thinking about what to play and kind of when to do it. I would suggest Italian radio stations. There are a lot of these are freely available on the internet if you just search them up. YouTube channels that are in Italian. Now, I don't mean channels that teach Italian like mine. I mean channels by Italians for Italians. So this could be about finance, sports, cooking, fashion, literally whatever. So you would just search, you wouldn't search Italian YouTube channel, you would search like Notizie Italiane, Italian news, this kind of thing. Italian Netflix shows, obviously these are perennially useful. They may not be available to you depending on your region, but if you can find them, and they do come up from time to time, these are going to be a great source for you. Italian podcasts are also a good one. Of course, this is going to be a bit more of a conversational listening, and I think the reason that's important is you want to get a real range of Italian when you're listening to it. You want to get everything from daily street conversations in Italian all the way up to actual kind of formal business conversation, if that's something you're interested in, because you don't know which situation you're going to find yourself in Italy, if you're speaking to a public official, if you're speaking to an older person, whatever it might be. So it's good to have that full range. Okay, when to actually go about this? I mean, literally, things like cooking, commuting, exercising, just kind of in the background are going to be helpful. Any time you like really is going to be helpful for this. Maybe some of you prefer to listen to things where you fall asleep, which would be good as well. Okay, what your brain's actually doing when you're listening to this, it probably is not going to feel like much is going in or much is happening, but a lot of this happens at the subconscious level. And you really just want to be absorbing that rhythm and the intonation of Italian, getting familiar with the patterns, especially if your native accent is one that is quite far removed from the Italian accent. You want to basically just go over it until it sounds a bit more natural. If you can think about the word and how it's supposed to sound, chances are you're going to be able to say it correctly as well. Okay, so of course, as I mentioned, this will help with pronunciation and really just making some of those connections in your brain. And the key here is not to try and understand everything when you're in that passive stage. In terms of actually when you might be thinking of moving up, okay, I'd say maybe when Italian sounds a bit less foreign, and in the beginning it definitely will sound foreign. If you're able to catch familiar words, this could be greetings like buongiorno, it could be things that are used to move on a conversation like allora, quindi, this kind of thing. And also distinguishing where sentences end. Okay, so Italians, you might have noticed, like the Spanish friends, do tend to speak quite quickly. So if you, especially they argue a lot as well. So if you're able to start to tell where those pauses are and when people's voices change, that's going to help you out a lot. I think if you've done the passive stage for a couple of weeks, you should be able to get on this. If you've got a notebook with some common phrases, this kind of thing, I think you should be fine. In terms of what to actually listen to at this stage, I would say, again, Italian music playlists. You can search for Rai Radio. This is the Italian national broadcaster. They're a great one. Italian vlogs on YouTube. And I think, again, this is going to be more on that daily conversation end. But of course, as I mentioned, you want to also go up to that, it doesn't need to even be formal, but it could just be like a polite conversation that you might use to book a table at a restaurant or this kind of thing. Okay, in terms of actually moving beyond that, so I'd say things like children's shows, and this extends to books as well, is going to be helpful. And you can just, again, search those on Amazon. You can ask ChatGPT for recommendations. Simple Italian podcasts. I think on YouTube there's a really good channel called Slow Italian or Easy Italian, something like this. YouTube videos or Netflix shows with captions or subtitles is going to be good as well. Okay, in terms of actually things to watch out for here, I've said it a couple of times, but don't stress about understanding everything. The point is to recognize patterns the fourth or fifth or sixth time that you end up hearing a word. I say don't use only one type of audio. Okay, so mix it up. Don't skip the passive stage as well, because otherwise you're gonna give up, and it's gonna feel very difficult because all this Italian is just gonna be going around in your head. But you want to just build that in slowly. It does take time. Okay, you're gonna be able to learn Italian quickly, but be realistic. It's not going to be instant. There are things that you can do to speed up your Italian, like this immersion, but it's not going to be instant. So do give your brain that time to form those connections, and most of that happens when you sleep, by the way. So make sure that your sleep is good to help sink that language learning in. Obviously, don't give up. I'm counting on you for that one. Do be consistent. Do use varied content. Trust the process. Okay, it does work. I mean, it's not rocket science, guys. If you want to learn a language and you listen to the language 10 hours a day, you're gonna get there a bit quicker, But I think most people struggle with knowing what to listen to and kind of where to actually find those resources. Okay, well done. I'm going to link a video here that I think will help you to watch right after this one. So happy Italian learning and good luck.